our friends at Korth Group recommended Lea as a great ambassador for the shooting sports. And so it was at the very, very last minute that Lee Wachowich joined us. So you're absolutely a team player, Lee. I appreciate it. So why don't we switch over to you now? And I'll try and do a little intro. I'm sure there's so much to talk about. It's better to have you chatting than me, but you are also obviously a pistol shooter, and I've got you down for 2 Olympic Games, 2019 in Lima and 2015 in Toronto, Pan American Games, ISSF World Championships, Commonwealth Games, Continental American Championships. And you shared with me when we chatted earlier today about your time when you shot, when you were in university at this amazing event that you're going to tell us all about. So why don't you lead off with telling us about this University Olympic Games that I'd never heard of, and tell us how your experience there built you up to the Olympics.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I haven't been to the Olympics. That's my one target. You know, me, Linda, and Dorothy have all been fighting for that. I've done 4 Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games. You know, had a lot of the build-up opportunities. Just, you know, when there's so few spots. You know, me, Linda, and Dorothy have all been fighting for that. I've done 4 Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games. You know, had a lot of the build-up opportunities. Just, you know, when there's so few spots to get to those Olympics, that competitiveness amongst us ladies is always, you know, always a fierce competition. And so unfortunately, you know, probably the closest was with 2015, sitting in first, going into in the middle of finals, and then unfortunately, you know, having a little bit of a slip and dropping back and ending up in 4th, where Linda took the gold in that event. So, but at that point she already had a quota, so she couldn't get a second one. The University Ad Games. So, you know, knowing this was supported by, you know, the women's shooting in university, that was something that was an amazing opportunity. And I know Linda got to go to a World University Shooting Championship. So that we've each gone to one of those. Those are specific to just shooting. So it's university students from all around the world come together wherever the match is being hosted. Mine was in the Czech Republic. Linda, I think yours was in the Czech Republic as well. So
she's nodding. Yeah.
Yeah. Opportunities there. So that was in 2006. I went to that and I ended up in 3rd in the air pistol event. So moved up and ended up just behind a couple of young Korean ladies. And then the next year they hosted the World University Ad Games, which is a multi-sport event. So it's very similar to the Pan American Games or the Commonwealth Games, but it's worldwide. So it's, you know, they almost refer to it as a university students Olympics, where it's all sports and literally every country is kind of sending their top athletes. And so it was really interesting to see that, where a lot of the countries were sending members of their military who were in the in university. So the competition at that one was really tough. I shot one of my best international scores there and still ended up 19th. So it was a really, really tough go. But, you know, we had an amazing opportunity. You know, being in Thailand was just, you know, it's another one of those experiences. It's part of the joy of getting to compete at that international level and represent Canada. It's something that's very different.
Well, thank you so much for sharing what a whole new piece of information for me and maybe some of the people on our show tonight to know that exists at the university level. I can honestly say when I learned about the Canadian University Shooting Federation in the 2020s, I was shocked that we had shooting clubs, very excited. And immediately Casey and I jumped up to see what we could do to help and mentor, because I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. And I can't wait to see more ladies joining in the CUSF events. So why don't we dial it back a little bit, Lee, and talk about how you got started and who your coaches and mentors were when you were starting in the sport.
So I had an interesting start. So Linda and I actually started within a couple of months of each other. You know, it's been one of those. My start was a little different. So my dad actually was very active in the IPSC side of the world, and one of the gentlemen that he was working with or competing with was looking for juniors to start for the Canada Winter Games in '95. So that kind of dates us, but. So me and my two sisters started, and we, similar to Linda, we were on a farm though, so we took up half of the garage or the Quonset for the tractor repairs and set up a range, and some of the neighbors started with us and that kind of stuff. And very quickly, my two older sisters realized that they were too old to qualify for the Canada Winter Games. So that was unfortunate. So they dropped off very quickly, and so I put in a lot of hard work, and we had a lot of competitions, and I did get the opportunity to go to the Canada Winter Games with Linda's sister. I just missed an individual medal because of a misfire on my air gun. Not sure what happened there still, but we came home with the team gold. So it was a great opportunity to set up for success. And through the years, coaches, mentors, there's been lots of them. I worked with Linda's dad for a number of years, looking at adopting things from different coaches. You talk to different people, you hear things differently. You can never say one coach is bad. It's how you listen to what they present, and how it comes across, and whether it works for you or not. It's one of those things. I always take pieces and try and understand what a coach is giving me. When you start looking at the amazing people within the shooting community, it's one of those things that everybody seems to be there and wants to support. If I were to reach out and say, hey, Sue, or hey, Linda, can you help me with this? Both of them would be there in a heartbeat. That's just the way the shooting community tends to be, is we're super supportive, we're super engaged, and we're going to do anything we can to, help you get better.
I love that. And, it's kind of funny because a bunch of us on this call and in the shooting community don't often think about the International Olympic, those kind of shooters, as part of the shooting community, because we don't see you at our local ranges. At least we don't know we're seeing you there, because there are ranges specific to some of the sports that we are talking about tonight. And so I love that we are all part of the same community, and it clearly is a helpful and inviting community. And if there are a couple of ranges that you guys want to give a shout out, I know you're in the Alberta area, and if there are a couple of ranges that are specific to ISSF or that kind of Olympic style of shooting, feel free to give them a shout out, because I've never been to any of them, so I'm sure they're out there. So.
For sure. Linda and I both train out of the Calgary Rifle and Pistol Club up in the Northeast in Calgary, and they're super supportive for us, which is fantastic. Members only club, but if you want to come in, check things out, everyone there is always willing to help and answer questions if you're coming in.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I loved you pointed out about what I call the toolbox. It's my shooting toolbox. So no matter where I take courses or who's giving me tips and tricks, it goes in the toolbox. Some stick, some don't. Some instructors and mentors and guides speak a language I understand, and some I just don't get what they're talking about. But you put it in your toolbox and you bring it along, and it builds and grows your capability. So I love that you commented on that. So I know we talked to Linda earlier about high points and low points. So I'd love it for you to share with us some of those in your shooting career so far.
Well, lots on both sides. Definitely, like Linda said, that competing on home soil, being in the finals, representing Canada, hearing your teammates behind you screaming, cheering your name, that is such an amazing feeling. And even walking into the opening ceremonies in Lima or in Toronto, where you're the home country, and this is the second the Canadian team walked into the stadium, the way the crowd just went off. You know, it's an amazing feeling. It's one of those that it's hard to explain to anyone who's never, you know, who's never had that experience. You know, qualifying for my first international finals and being halfway through the finals, and then, you know, because I've been so focused and so on my process, and then looking downrange and going, huh, there's a video camera down there. So always having fun with those, you know, as technology changes through the years, it's always interesting because sometimes you miss some of those little details within the changes. And because we don't necessarily see them at our smaller or national competitions, when you do get into that setting in the international side, it's kind of different. You know, biggest disappointment, definitely 2015 was hard. You know, I was well set up, I was doing well, and unfortunately lost my focus and just had to take that back. And like Linda said, after the Olympics, it was coming back and definitely re-looking at what happened and how can I address that going forward, that kind of stuff. And then had a little bit of a shoulder injury come 2018. So that kind of put me out of competing again for 2020. So, you know, have had some time now to regroup, do a lot of changes in my physical side of my program, and, you know, and working on building to 2024. You know, it's looking at that and how do you go forward?
So congrats for getting over those hurdles. And I know we've got one guest or one person in our audience tonight. I'm just going to give a shout out to Amanda Fisher. She was one of our special guests in a recent Ladyguns Live, and she's an IPSC shooter that's been invited to the World. So I know she talked to me earlier today through instant messaging. She said, I hope somebody talks about the mental game because I'm really nervous. So Amanda, we're supporting you. And Lee, have you got any words of advice for Amanda as she's preparing to go to the Worlds?
You know, I think a big one is just stay on your process. You know, as long as you're focused on what you need to do, how you need to move through each of those settings that you're going to be in, you know, the result will take care of itself. It's definitely just stick with that process, and the process, if you've got your process down, will carry you through.
Thanks. I hope, Amanda, that that helped you. I don't think there's a magic pill. I liked when Linda talked about having some sports psychologists, and I know that there's a bunch of people that would like us to have some of those experts on a future Ladyguns Live. So if you can recommend any great speakers that can help our guests learn about the mental side of the game, whether it be pistol, rifle, shotgun, we're open to that. So, all right, Lee, let's get into some personal stuff now. What's your day job, and how do you work around that building up to the Olympics?
So my day job, I am actually a health and safety and quality assurance manager for food service providers. So I actually spend a lot of time traveling normally. I cover, up until pre-COVID, I was covering Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. And so we kind of had this little bit of a touch point before we started where February of last year, I was on 7 different flights. I was home for 4 days for a total of 36 hours in the two sets of days I was home. So a lot of it comes to that dry training that Linda talked about earlier, finding ways to work in a hotel room. You know, the nice thing is with the air pistol, I don't have to have permits or anything to take it with me. I can do that one pretty much anywhere. So it gives me that opportunity to do some of that. It's, you know, how, when I'm looking at traveling, where can I, you know, does the hotel have a gym, or is there a gym close? You know, taking into account those pieces as I, you know, work to build my training programs. And like Linda said, this whole last year, training programs have kind of been a bit of a crapshoot because, you know, you plan on something and then, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road, you're going, you've got a curveball coming out of left field. The range is closed. The gyms are closed. They're, where do you go? What do you do? So lots of learning to pivot this year. But in the past, I've done a lot with that because of the work that I do, and knowing that I'm not always going to be able to get the range time. So when I am home, I try and get to the range as much as possible. So there's days and unlike Linda, I don't have kids. I'm single and enjoy the freedom to go and do whatever I want. So it's I have the opportunity to manage that a little bit differently.
So when you're doing all of this, I know lots of people think that athletes have special diets, and some do. I don't know if shooters on the Olympic stage or the international shooting stage have special diets. That's important, but what I want to know is, what's your favorite cheat meal? What's your favorite treat that you give yourself when you've had a really good training day? Is it ice cream or a cold beer? What is it, right?
You know what? It's not something that I normally do. Just for me, I know how my body reacts when, because I'm so in tune with my body, I know how my body reacts when I have even a single glass of wine. Like it just, the next day, as much as it's one glass of wine, it affects how I'm going to train, and I'm working. So, and I have some very personal goals, that aren't shooting related, and so that makes some difference there. But if I'm gonna I had a great celebration, it was a competition, that kind of thing. That's a tough one. And part of it depends on where I am. Favorite place when we go down to Georgia is to go out for barbecue. So there's a southern barbecue place just off the back of the base, and they make an amazing buttermilk pie. If I
Never even heard of that. Don't know what a buttermilk pie is.
I'd be all over that pie.
That's amazing. All right. So what are your hobbies when you're not shooting? What do you do for fun, to relax, to not think about shooting?
So when I'm not shooting, definitely a lot of going out, catching up with friends, because between shooting and work, I'm on the road a lot. So I'll go out and I'll catch up for coffee. When I get the opportunity, I will go out of town and I'll go hiking, or just even on a road trip. That getting away and just taking a break from everything for me is huge. It lets me clear my head and just keep who I am. I'm a little bit different because I'm a bit of a workaholic. So I also have a part-time job on top of my full-time job. So it keeps me going, and it's what keeps me from going totally stir crazy, because I don't sit still well.
Right. Well, you know what? I totally understand. I'm one of those people that doesn't sit still as well, very well at all. And so my last question for you is, are you a podcast or read a book kind of person?
That's a tough one, because I do both. I like the podcasts when I'm on the road or when I'm working out, because it's something that I could just throw in my ear and I could be listening to. But I love the texture of a good book.
Paper, flipping pages. I know, I'm a paper trained girl myself. Anything you're reading? What's on your nightstand right now?
What's on my nightstand? It's a book by David Goggins. What's the title?
You Can't Hurt Me.
That's the one. I love that book.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Listening to it in an audiobook is also really good. So I listened to it in audio first, and then I had to buy the book.
Amazing. I too like the opportunity to listen while I'm doing something, because I can't sit still, and I find that sitting and enjoying a good read is fantastic. So thank you so much, Lee. Absolutely appreciate your time.